Hello, good morning everyone. Welcome to another live webinar at HLP World. Today we are going to talk about understanding the mind of adolescents. We have Dr. Diana Manoshi-a along with us. So she is a consulting psychologist with 13 years of experience. She loves to learn different kinds of healing methods and holds a vision to experiment different kinds of healing methods together. So let us go ahead with Diana. Hi, Diana. Thank you so much for coming in. And the stage is all over to you. So you all can type your questions below through the session. We'll come back in another question answer session at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Divya. Hi, good morning. And thank you so much for tuning in this morning. And what we're going to be doing is talking about understanding adolescence, right? So who are adolescents? Adolescence falls into this age group of 12 to 24. Okay. So just like how your child at 12, like, on the 12th birthday, does not become an adolescent overnight, the same goes good for, the weaning off time as well. Okay. So adolescence is basically this period of getting into a live it's like they're going on live wire. Okay, they're going on, it's like life is on fire actually. So this process of getting into adolescence isn't drastic. It's like a gradual continuous thing, and it spans over a period. Okay, so what happens with adolescence is that it can be it can be both exciting as well as confusing for them, and not only for them but also their caretakers. Okay, so it could be their immediate parent and the second parent. Who are these second parents? Second parents are your teachers, let's say their coaches, any sports coach, music coach, art coach, anything at all. It can also be an aunt and uncle or anybody who's closely involved in an adolescent's life, right? And the third parent, interestingly, is media, any form of media, right? So why am I using this term parent so loosely? It's because of the kind of influence that these adult individuals have on the growth and development of an adolescent. So adolescent is that period, like I told you, it's like, life is on fire. What happens is that there is a burst of growth and maturation like no other period of your life. Okay. And that is why it is so vital for us adults to understand the nature of growth and development so that we can meet and support them better. So what we're going to do, okay, so sorry. Okay. So one of the most observable changes is the physical development, right? So you suddenly see them growing taller, and in girls you see the budding breasts and the hips tend to widen up. And with boys, cracking of the voice, and then there is facial hair and all of that. And you can see all of those changes. And what is menarche, which is the first period to girls, is equivalent to the first ejaculation in boys, the first wet dreams. Puberty and sexual maturation mark the onset of adolescence. What does that mean? It means it indicates signs of fertility and the ability to reproduce. So let's say 100 years ago, the time span between hitting puberty and one's ability to spend for themselves in terms of their career or taking care of the family was a very short span. Okay, so it was like girls used to hit puberty around 15, 16, so on and so forth. And then getting into this ability to have their own family was shortened. Okay. However, recent studies have indicated that the average age of menarche as of now is 10.45 years. 10.5 years. So therefore, this extended period of adolescence. What we're going to do is not focus much on the body changes, but we will be looking at shifts in the brain structure and functions of the adolescent. Okay, so what is a brain? Brain is a collection of cells, and they use chemicals called neurotransmitters to communicate with each other. There is this dopamine, which is a neurotransmitter, and it is related with the reward circuits in our brain. Okay, and it's noted, studies have indicated that there is an increase in dopamine in the adolescents. Okay, and the this is directly relational to their, thrill-seeking experiences and sensations. So if you look at it, their baseline, okay, the baseline of however, how they respond, how a teenager responds or reacts to a situation, that causes an increase in the dopamine. And this is also the reason why they are so alive. And it also causes something very interesting, that is, they tend to overweigh positivity and kind of brush aside negative consequences of their risk-taking behavior. Okay. Okay. Now, quest for this reward circuitry, right? It manifests in three ways. One is impulsiveness, behavior that one engages in without thought for reflection. So pausing for a moment means generating many more options. However, to pause, ask your impulse to take a chill pill means it's a lot of effort and energy, right? And it's also a habit that needs to get cultivated. Neuroscience has indicated that behaviors such as learning mindfulness, self-reflection, and breath work. When you start engaging in this, then you have this ability to start pausing before you do something. Okay. The second one is it increases our vulnerability to addictions. So any substance or behavior causes a release of dopamine. Okay. And at teenage, you are, in this place where you want to seek out new experiences. It's like you want to try out new things, unfamiliar, uncertain, all of that put together. So let's say a teenager wants to try out alcohol and drugs. Okay. So the consumption of a substance would cause an increase in dopamine. Okay. And as the effect of the substance wears out, the dopamine comes down as well. So for this to increase, you need to consume again. Therefore, it becomes very cyclic. Now, what research has indicated is that apart from even food with high glycemic index, okay, your processed food, your sugars, this also has a similar effect. That is, it can become addictive, right? So if you've been part of HLP, one of the core features of HLP has been to avoid the 5 whys. Okay, so if you've been practicing it for yourself and for your family, it will be very interesting to see how our young ones grow, right? So as a parent, there are not too many variables that you can control, but what is possible within your grip is something that we could probably try out. And if you have an adolescent already, or if you have a child who's hitting towards adolescence, it would be really interesting, or it would be good for you to start practicing this. Yeah. Hyper-rationality is our third manifestation. What is hyper-rationality? Studies have indicated that it's not that adolescents are not aware of their risk-taking behavior. It's just that they're given a lot of importance to the positives. Like you can see in the picture, they tend to give a lot of importance to the positives and don't give in that much of weightage to the negative consequences of their behavior. So at this junction, I'm just reminded of someone, and I'm thinking of, so there was this adolescent, okay, for reasons best known, I'm not going to tell you how old the adolescent was. So he decided to do something that many of us must have done it, all right? He decided to bunk school. And he said, I'm going to spend that day with my friends, and good food, just some laughter and some good time. And he had carefully planned it. So exactly at 3:30, he had it all covered and he was back. Okay, all went well. Now he went back the next day to his class, and one of his mentors, teachers, professors, whatever you call them, noticed his absence because he hadn't submitted an assignment or something like that. So asked him as to what happened, why did you not come? And his impulse behavior kicked in, and he said, I lost my uncle. Now, that is also something that many of us must have tried out. Now, what happens is that many a times for many adolescents, if they don't get caught or if you're not into trouble, this becomes something that you meet in your reunions after many years and you sit and have a great laughter. Okay, but for our adolescent, it turned out to be very different. Now, she happened to belong to a community similar as him, and she thought it is very important that she pays condolence to the mother, right? And she happened to call him in the evening, and the mother was pretty shocked that the brother died, right? So the thing is, it's spiraled very different for our adolescent here. Okay, he wasn't doing very well academically, and there were a couple of other factors. So the adults in his life at that moment, well-meaning adults, they decided that it's best for him to perhaps go into another school. Okay, but for our young friend here, what happened is he was taken off from something that he belonged to. He kind of knew every wall in that institution. He knew every brick in that institution, right? So, yeah, at this moment, I'm going to take a pause. I was told that this is an interactive session, okay? And here goes my first question to you. Now, let's reflect on this scenario of this young adolescent, right? You are listening to information that I'm giving you, and what I want you to do is, I want you to play either the parent one or the parent two, okay? These responsible the influencers in their life, and tell me as to what would you have done differently for this adolescent. I can't look into your replies right away, but I promise to read into your replies. Okay, I will read into them and I will reply to them. Okay, so while you are doing the thinking and writing, I'm going to continue talking because we have limited time frame. Yeah, so this Saturday morning, I'm deciding to chew your brains with a little more of brain facts. Okay. So if you've been listening to our lockdown series, there was Divya and Harini who spoke about a childhood development, and they spoke of something very interesting and very important as well. That is, children tend to soak from their adult world. Okay, they're like sponges. They kind of learn everything from the adult world. So what science thought was adolescence means that similar kind of soaking. However, it would be more sophisticated kind of sponging from the adult world. But they were in for a shock when they realized that what exactly happens is the brain tends to prune away like this. Yeah, it tends to destroy itself. You see the picture, like chop, chop, chop. That's exactly what happens. Okay, so it's based on the use it or lose it principle. The neurons that are kept active sustain itself. The rest gets pruned away. Okay, so what this means is that, let's say you have a skill set for whatever skill set that you've picked, that the child has picked. So if it's not being used, the brain decides that it's of no use anyways. So let's prune it off. Okay. So this is one of the reasons why it's very important, very, very important, that if you want your child to pick various skills, let's say music, art, martial arts, whatever that is, it's important that you introduce it to them prior to adolescence. Okay. So here comes another person, 11-year-old, and this time a girl. Okay, she's very resilient, very, very resilient, and came from a very acrimonious, difficult kind of an environment, but she had an innate talent to draw and paint. Okay, so she was in standard 6, 11 years, standard 6, so which means more number of subjects and more scores to get, right? So well-meaning adults like you and I thought that, decided to have a conversation with her, and they said that, you need to be focusing more on your studies, and painting is not going to get you too far. Now, I happened to meet this person as a young woman in my office, and she came in with feelings of apathy, that's like no emotions, right? And an inability to make connections, difficulty in having relationships. There were a lot of other factors adding to this. However, why am I choosing this example is that she was using drawing and painting as her means to emote herself, to throw her emotions, to indicate her mental activities and her emotions during that time, right? So it took in a lot of effort to rekindle this ability for her, a lot of sessions. So if you're a parent and if you notice that your child likes or loves doing something, I would say please encourage them to continue doing so, because that way you're going to help them strengthen their neurons, okay, so that they get better at it. Yeah. Okay, so that's how synaptic pruning looks like. So if you see this first figure, it's like a little baby, right? And you see there's so many connections that they've formed. And the second one is the adolescent, like, you know, you see the jaw structure coming in, and there are lesser number of neurons. Right, the adult brain. Okay, so what I'm going to say right now could be something that some of us have gone through, some of us are going through, or you know some adult who's going through it right now. All right. So if you look at an adult, sometimes it's like you're in autopilot mode. Yeah. It's like it's so routine, day in and day out. You lack creativity. There is no newness. There's no emotion. There's no connection. There's like little that you do when it comes to being creative. Yeah. It's like the brain, like very plain and boring, if you ask me, this brain, right? Now I want you to see the adolescent brain. Yeah, everything that happens to them. Now, who would intentionally choose an adult brain, right? Well, what happens is that as we are going through, as we are aging, there are these 4 distinctive principles that's very, very central to adolescence. We tend to like wean off from that. It just passes off. Okay. So we look into what those 4 distinctive features are. It's called essence. And this is something that's given by Dr. Daniel Siegel. And what does it mean? ES stands for emotional spark. SE stands for social engagement. N for novelty. And CE for creative expressions. We're going to just skim through this. Okay. Emotional spark. So I told you, it's like you're alive by them. Yeah. So their life is filled with passion. There's so much of jest, there's vitality, there's life, they're so alive. Okay. But what's the flip side or the downside? The downside of it is that you see that they can become very moody, very irritable. Yeah. So on one end, they're like so lovey-dovey and very sweet, like, you know, for a few hours. And then you see that they can get really so moody, like they don't even want you anywhere close by. So it kind of confuses you as to what is happening. I don't know why this person is just closing up suddenly, right? Now, the best part is it's not just for you as an adult, but it's happening to them as well. Even they are not sure as to why they're getting so fluctuating in their moods. Now we understand that it's brain growth and development, and that's how it's going to be. Yeah. The second one is social engagement. Now, it's natural. It's a natural drive that at adolescence, what happens is their attachment to their parents, slowly they get away from that and they gravitate towards teenagers. Okay. So now this happens even with mammals. All right. So let's say you're an antelope or let's say you're a lion. Okay. And if you don't hang out with your peers, you either become somebody's lunch or you end up starving yourself to death. So in the wild, what it's like to have numbers means you're helping yourself or you're saving. It's like safety away from predators, right? Sometimes you might have noticed an adolescent and, you know, they come across as they have this urge, like there's an urgency to get something like a new shoes or a gadget, or it could be a range of things. Sometimes it's like going for a concert, any of that, right? So firstly, you don't have to give in to them. The second thing is what you can be doing is can get wary of this fact that they're not faking it. It's actually millions of years of evolution. It's in our DNA to want to belong to a membership, to want to belong to a group of people, right? So it, or at least one or two friends, it comes in from there. But what's the downside? The downside is they can forsake morality for membership. So that's your peer pressure. The next one is empty nest factor. So this happens to parents. All along, you've invested all your time and energy into bringing up a child. And in adolescence, you've realized that they're slowly pointing off. They're just like moving away from you and into their peers. So it can leave you feeling very empty. Yeah, you start feeling like they're moving away and you start questioning your purpose. Now, that's how it is. Yeah. total shut off. So it's very natural for adolescents to move away from adults. However, it's not if they're shutting off from you. So it's becoming very common that many adolescents, what they tend to do is totally shut off from adults. Okay. And it just means that they're getting to be more, they're engaging in more risky and dangerous behavior without adult supervision completely. Yeah. And therefore, it's very vital for us to keep lines of communication and connection open with them. And what's the upside? Upside is they learn to make friends and they develop social skills, right? So if you look at any research on longevity, on happiness, on mental health and physical health, one common variable, one factor that holds all of it together is this fact that you invest in healthy, supportive relationships. And where do you learn it? You start learning it in your adolescent period. Yeah. The third one is novelty. Novelty is to try out new things, the unfamiliar, the uncertain, the uncomfortable, everything that is new, go into adventures. Also, they end up in the risky behavior, right? The downside to that is hyper-rationality, wherein, like I already told you, is like they tend to outweigh, they give in a lot of importance to the positives and brush aside the negatives when they are into risk-taking behavior. Okay. The fourth one is creative expressions. Now, this is a time where they start challenging the whys and why nots. Jean Piaget, he talks about abstract reasoning and conceptual thinking. So if you look into their texts, especially mathematics, they will have logs and theorems and everything else that's mathematical and needs this kind of thinking. Okay, the downside to this is crisis of identity. This is something that's spoken by Erik Erikson as well. So up until now, as you're the parent figure, okay, and they've been soaking from you, you are the role model for them. Not godlikely, maybe, I don't know, but then definitely a role model, right? Now, with this brain that starts questioning whys and why nots, they're going to start questioning your ideology. They're also going to start looking at your limitations and your flaws. So in this process, they are forming their own identity. Yeah. Now, this entire process is something that's natural and that will happen. But sometimes it can get very delusional for them. It is a very difficult process because it's not easy. We've all been through this. Yeah. So you can see that the brain growth and development offers both risks and opportunities for the adolescent. Okay. But how much, how we as adults would like to navigate them through this journey is a decision that is ours. Yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause again and going to repeat myself that I was told that this is a interactive session. So here goes my second question to you. But so it's like this. For the last couple of months, we've all been through, we're going through a part that is like, one that is going to be creating history, right? So each one of us is dealing with it very differently, and therefore we are. But one population that is getting affected is the adolescents. If you look at this second point, that is the social engagement, yeah, it's so important for them to be with their peers. Okay, so if you have an adolescent, okay, or if you know of an adolescent, or just imagine there is an adolescent. What I want you to do is I want you to think about what are the ways that you could probably facilitate for this social engagement to happen, for this peer engagement to happen, right? I want you to become very mindful of one factor, that is not all of us are privileged to privacy. Yeah. So if you leave two adolescents in this room and if I'm there with them, they're going to be talking about very different things. But the moment I walk out, they're going to have their conversations are going to be something different altogether. Yeah. So while you are multitasking, thinking and writing and listening to me, I'm going to just continue, right? Okay. So while I was preparing for this presentation, actually, I was thinking I'm not going to just leave you with some facts and figures. or, definitely no do's and don'ts. So I thought I'll give you some takeaways, okay, some DIY techniques. The first of them is reflective time travel. And what does this mean? What reflective time travel means is that I want you to reflect back to your past experiences as an adolescent. I want you to look into your mental activities. What are your hopes, your aspirations, what were your emotions, your feelings? What were your relationships like? Could you have a self-understanding of that? And perhaps bring in that understanding into the present while you are dealing with an adolescent. Okay, as complex as it sounds, as difficult as the process sounds, what I've decided to do is I've given you a set of questions um, that will be posted in the chat box and also in the description box. Okay, so in your quiet time you could probably go through these questions and write it for yourself. Now, there are a couple of possibilities out of this. Okay. Now, one, you would feel like I already know of all of this. Secondly, it could be very insightful for some of us. And sometimes it can be very rattling from inside. Okay. So if you're a part of HLP already, what you could be doing is talk to your admins and super admins. Now, these are individuals just like you. They are parents just like you who have benefited from this, and therefore they volunteer their time to give to you. Okay. In connection with that is my second point, and that is to build your your support system. Okay. Allo parenting. Now this is something very unique to human beings. Okay, even our primate cousins do not engage in this behavior. Allo basically means others, and this is a concept given by Sarah Hardy. She talks about this. She's an anthropologist, and she talks about this in her book Mothers and Others. You can also read up about this in the book called The Red Queen. Yeah. So what does this basically mean? Alloparenting is when a baby is born. Okay, the mother, apart from her partner, chooses various individuals in who she can trust. Okay, and collectively they are into child rearing. Okay, so it was like literally it took a village to bring up a baby. It's never a one person or two people process, right? So owing to various reasons in our modern times, this process seems to have gone away, yeah, faded away. And we see the repercussions of it already. What I want to be reminding you is that we humans are not isolated beings. We lived in communities. We live in collaboration. We believed in collaboration, and it was in competition, right? For reasons best known to you, maybe you can't avail physical support, all right? But do take support that's already existing. Now, I'm going to just take a minute to talk about HLP. I've been part of this actively part of it for the last 6 months. And what interests me is that it's very interesting to see that when there is a mother who's going through something, this is run on WhatsApp, by the way, she would post this query on the group, right? And it's very interesting to notice other mothers who respond to this, yeah? What is interesting is it doesn't come from an intellectual space. It's not coming from a textbook, but it's coming from one's experience of child rearing. A very unique observation for me. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. That's very, very different. My point here is that you need to be building your support system. Whether you join a community, you join a group, or whatever your means, you need to be building your support system. And it's not just you building, not just receiving, but also you need to become somebody's support system, yeah, within your boundaries, within your limitations, as you journey through this life of yours, yeah. And in doing so, what happens is you actually kickstart 2 of those 4 features of adolescence, right? So one is by using reflective time travel, you're bringing in empathy and understanding. In that way, you're talking about emotional spark. And the second one, in building your support system, it's the social engagement that you've kickstarted. And as of the third and the fourth one, that's the novelty and creative expressions, it will come through as time goes by. Yeah. So with this, I finish my monologue. So now I'm ready for more questions from your end. Yeah. Yes. Yes, Divya. Do you have any questions, Divya?
Hi, Diana. I think that
Yes.
was a wonderful session. I mean, I really understood that why your students love you.
Oh, okay.
Because the way you time traveled, I mean, the way you took into what happened with the child, you were giving so many examples with children about what happened with her, how she was very good with art. I mean, that was really lovely. Okay, so let's go ahead. The first question is, okay. Oh my God, we have a long list of questions. Just let me read out it to you. Okay, so yeah, so one of the parents asks, I have been hearing a lot on body shaming at this age. Would you be able to tell us what it is? Also, does eating disorders exist with the children at this age?
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much for bringing that up. Whoever you are, thank you so much. Wonderful. Yes, eating disorder is not belonging only to the Western culture. It exists in India as well. You would be very surprised to the percentage of the number of people who are actually suffering from it. I right now have around three of them, and it's very sad. These are like what, 14, 17, and one of them in their 20s, and they starve themselves, like literally starve themselves, and they know that they are destroying. That's the best part. They're already aware of the fact that they are destroying parts of their body, right? So it's not a myth anymore. It is existing, and it does exist. And about body shaming, wow, this is like one topic, and I'm hoping I'm keeping my emotions in place, all right? Uh, yeah, so it exists both in boys as well as girls. Now, who is the primary factor to it? It's not just one person. It's not just that the adolescent becomes, comes into their teenage and start feeling like, oh my God, my body is not all right. If you look at it, the kind of things that the third parent, the media actually puts around, right? It's so, I don't know, how do you even spell that out? I mean, look at the images that they have that we have to meet in order for us to appear palatable for the world to see. It's like, I don't know. And the best part is that they're doing this because we are the consumers of it. We are wanting this. Yeah, we are consuming more of it, and therefore they can keep throwing it at us. Somewhere, somebody has to take charge of this, right? Someone has to stop and say, yeah, we are not going to give in to this anymore. And for adolescents, it's like it's crazy. Both boys and girls, they can't really accept themselves, and it doesn't stop at adolescence. It goes in way into your adult and maybe till, I don't know, end of times. But that's where it starts. That's where it starts. Yes. uh yeah.
Okay, so I just want to ask something from my end to this. So, do you think electronic media does have any impact in the body shaming? To what extent would it have?
There are around research shows there are about at least 1,000 pictures that one is acquainted to in their daily life. Could you beat that? Because while you're traveling, right now we are holed up, but then otherwise, while you're traveling, there like so much information that your mind is susceptible to, like when you're traveling on the road, right? And all of it talks about, certain things, an image to be followed, something that is ideal. And who gives this to us? The fashion industry, the ones who sell the clothes. I don't know, so many other people. Yeah, this is some topic very close to me, Devi. I'm just trying to hold my
Yeah, with so much of education and so much of media exposure with which they need for their education. So there's also a chance of getting too much exposed to this kind of media, which might, end up with body shaming and that. How does a parent get balance?
movies. Look at the kind of movies, Divya. It's like, you know, something is funny. The way the person appears is funny to people, and you start laughing. And what does the little child learn from you while she's or he is soaking from the environment? That one, I should never end up being that kind of a body weight or body appearance, whatever that you're laughing at. And secondly, it's so important that we start laughing at people who are like that. So that's what they're soaking from you. That's what they've learned from you. So as parents, it becomes a responsibility to become mindful, like very mindful of what we are actually having in our heads. Most times it's us, right? Who is this third parent? If you're talking about media, then how many of us actually work in there, right? And what are we doing? How are we contributing to this? Are we contributors? That's a self-reflective question. And if we are, what are we going to be doing about it already? Are we comfortable with our bodies? Are we shaming it? And if we are, then that's what you're going to give to your legacy. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So let's move on to the next question. Is adolescence privacy safe?
What is that? I'm sorry, privacy safe?
Yes. I think that's an ambiguous question. Let's move on to the next one. I feel trusting your child and letting him know is very important. What is your input in this? For example, I know my son watches the movies in between. I take very casually and talk to him about it. And he openly tells what all he watches. For example, Star Wars.
Okay. Okay. So he or she wants to know that is it okay to trust the child? That's the best thing to do. In fact, I told you already that you need to keep your lines of communication and connection open with them throughout. That's like the best way possible. They are going to move away from you. That's natural. That's like a nature's drive, right? But it's vital to keep that trust. And trust doesn't happen like, at one time. And even adult relationship is just not like, yeah, I start trusting somebody. No, it's a process. It's a relationship, right? So you invest and you get back the returns.
So these kind of movies can also include violence movies and any kind of other content as well. So how does a parent balance that equation with the child?
You can monitor them as much as you can, but if they want to, they will have their sources to go and get it. So they're not limited to only the four walls. And as they are adolescents, they're going to start exploring the world, right? So you may think that they're very, goody goody, whatever, but you can't control all factors. They will go and talk, watch it outside. So you can, that's why it's vital to have these communication lines open. You tell them, you can reason out with them. Remember this emotional spark. Yeah. So that is something that you can actually use with them. What you can do is bring in that quotient while speaking to them. Tell them, explain to them. They also have this reasonable reasoning mind. So if you bring in emotions and mix it a little bit with rational thinking, they do understand. They understand the rational behind things. That's the only way forward, and not emotional atyachar. Never.
I agree with the emotional atyachar part, but do you really think bringing in that trust with the parent and the child with all the other kinds of content coming in also will help? I mean, will the
Like,
parent not end up being a friend rather than a parent? Do you think the parent will be able to draw the line in between in this scenario?
like what? Talking about violence? Are you talking about sex and sexuality?
I mean, any kind of content where the child is watching.
It's important that you have your communication going with the child. If he's not, I mean, you can be this helicopter parent and go behind your child and try and snoop around and find out what's happening. But then when you're not doing that, your child is still engaging in a lot of other things, right? Your adolescents, it's that time to explore. Remember, they have, apart from you, they have a lot of other sources that they can go and get their information from. They're still going to do it. Just that, like I already told you, they could be moving far away from you. At one point, they can cut you off, which is very dangerous for them. It's very dangerous because they can get into a lot of risky behavior.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, moving on to the next question. So this was the ambiguous question. We got a more information on that. Is adolescent privacy safe? So privacy for adolescent child is okay. What kind of privacy should be given? What is the extent of privacy which can be given to an adolescent child?
What extent of privacy? I really wish I could get into a verbal dialogue with this person who's asking, because it seems very important for them to get this going. So what is your concern about privacy? What does privacy mean to them already? I'm asking back. I hope they can reply back to me, right? When they say what extent of privacy, I'm trying to really understand the finer lines of what they're trying to say. If you are concerned about your child exploring their body, they are going to be doing that. Remember, they're hitting puberty already, all right? So yes, that kind of privacy is required for them. Will they be exploring and finding out other things? Yes, they will be doing it. So you need to be allowing for that, but keep your lines of communication open with them. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So next question. My kid now is getting lazy and more towards video games, though we don't give much gadgets. How to divert this mindset?
Adolescent getting into is it a kid or an adolescent?
It's an adolescent.
Okay. Is into more of gadgets, is it?
Yes.
Okay, so that's like more of a parenting issue there, right? So setting boundaries for them. So it's very important. So you have to have the screen time. I'm sure they've heard of this a lot of times. It can also be about right now what's happening is the kind of screen time that our kids are going through for the last 4 months is not something that we can control. It's beyond us, right? It's just enforced by the school that they actually have to go through this. So coming back to the gadgets part, it's directly reflective of how you can set your boundaries with your child, and you'll have to start doing it sometime, somewhere, because it's a thin line between, being very authoritative with them, and the other part will be that you're going to be very lenient and giving in to everything that they're asking for. And like I already told you, this is a time when pruning starts happening. So one of the biggest dangers right now is to, let them involve in a lot of gadgets. Yeah.
Okay.
So any kind of video games, right? It kind of, the repercussions of it. You are going to be so much stimulated by that. Even as adults, the amount of the number of time, the amount of time you spend on, let's say, WhatsApp or other kind of things, it kind of is generative of. It's like making a lot of connections, and you need to get off that space. You need at least 1 hour off all of that, and only then your brain kind of goes into a space of resting. And it's very important for brain growth that this weaning off happens.
Okay.
At all age.
Okay. So because you mentioned about setting the boundaries with the child, this resonates. So adolescence is, again, if we go with another school of thought with Dr. Maria Montessori, it's the third plane of development, that is from roughly from 12 to 18 years. So when we look at the first plane of development, the setting of boundaries, because the children are younger, and then the way in which we do it is different. But when with a 12-year-old or a 15-year-old, when we set a boundary, for example, my daughter, when I say you stop watching, or that's enough, so she just says, see, you are doing your work. Did I ever interfere in your work? These kind of questions pop up with children. So it could be more of a verbal argument. So what kind of emotion or empathy can we show with this child when it comes to setting the boundaries?
With the specific case that you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay. So it's very reasonable, right? Like I told you, they're coming up with the reasons to argue with you and say, yeah, so you're doing that, so I'm going to end up doing this. So what you could be doing is also to ignite into her other areas that she's good at, right? So if you've already set boundaries with them before they hit puberty, then it's easier. One thing is, it's not about, very clear. Yeah, if you set the boundaries, I think it will already work, and it's not like they're going to change drastically once you've had that lines of communication open, your trust open with them, and you've already done your part. Okay. But with her, if you can also generate other things that she's good at, yeah, then you can, and she will be also watching you do these things. Yeah. And if she sees that you are maybe engaging in martial arts, yoga, whatever else, let's say painting or anything else, then it is like, so I see her doing that, maybe I need to also be doing that. But if she's observing that you're always on calls and work and engaging with your friends, then it's just reasonable that they get to do that as
So
well.
that could be
That's
my
maybe
line of that could be my line of work as well, right? It could be my
yeah,
line.
but that is their point of argument with you. They'll be like, you do that, then let me also do it. I mean, why should I be deprived of that? So somewhere you need to put your boundaries for yourself and start engaging in doing things that is something good for you as well, right? If you start having this time off period with yourself, then they are observant of you. No
Hmm.
matter how much I say they're not going to be soaking into you, yes, you're still their role model.
True. But
Yeah.
somewhere when we were talking about the Star Wars in drawing the line trust as a friend, and now when I come into setting up the boundaries as a parent, do you think it'll be very tough to set those lines where are you really a parent or really a friend? Wouldn't that be a little bit tougher?
It depends on what is your definition of parent, and what does friend mean? What is this
So
friend parent?
it is about trust. You also chill out with a child and sit together and you share everything together, right? Something on those lines.
Yeah, so you know how much you can share with your child. You're not going to end up talking about, these are the different things
Sharing
that are
between what with us. It's not about my life or the parent's life. Sharing between the child and the parent.
Isn't that a good thing to do? Isn't that a beautiful bond to build? Because then you are also aware of what this child is actually, what are the different things this person is learning from the environment around you.
Yeah, I mean it's very good. But the next moment when I set up the boundaries, do you think this child will be able to balance?
So assertiveness is that medium between being aggressive and being passive, right? So if you're assertive, then you know exactly where to put the boundaries, and you know where exactly you can go a little lenient. You can't be like all the time being this Hitler around, and I want you to keep doing this, and you know where your child is. And if you're going to be this, yeah, everything is okay, you can get up wherever, whenever you want to, do what you want to. You have no course to do. I will do all your job and crib behind your back. Then it's different. However, if you're assertive, then you know where to go a little lenient and when to, get to asking them to do their stuff. Like they need to. It's very interesting. This is my observation from my experience. Many of them are not given responsibilities like daily work, right? To make their bed, many parents end up doing it themselves, right? Or they have help doing it. So these kids are like, yeah, everything gets done for them. Yeah, so then it's very boring for them. I told you, right? The dopamine is a very interesting factor that acts on their brain. So they need novel, they need routine as well. Yes, they need a lot of new things, but they need routine as well. So it's very important that that gets inculcated in them. So if you're going to be doing their beds, if you're going to make every breakfast for them, this is time that they can start exploring that as well. Remember, they are going to slowly move out of you, right? So it's a
True.
good time for them to start becoming more independent.
So with what
Very
you're sharing, Diana, it looks like most of the things we'll have to set up right from initial years. It's nothing that it has to be an onset at the start of adolescence, but it has to be something right from birth. I mean, that would lay the foundation
Yeah,
for
it's like
and
slow, right? It's like gradual development, like when from crawling, how they start walking, like that, giving them small work and then slowly start making them independent. It's very important that we also help them get these life skills for them to start being on their own.
yeah. So
Yeah,
what if a parent
cooking
has
and
not
cleaning.
done this for what if a parent has not done this for 12 years and is doing now?
Very difficult. They're going to be very rebellious. They'll be
So
like,
how
what
do
the
we
hell?
how do we arrive to a solution on this issue? With the
You have
parent going to start to do it at 11 or 12. How do you fix this? How do
You
you
have to become
address
the
this?
Hitler. You don't have a choice. You have to become stern with them. You'll have to say, okay, overnight I'm going to change my appearance. I'm not going to be the good mom anymore.
So
So say,
when you're choosing that assertiveness of being a Hitler, then we also lose out on the other part of where we are talking about a friend or building a trust.
yeah, but then what happens, Divya, if you don't start it? Because I'm right now reminded of one of my client who came in as a grown-up woman, right? And she's got two young adolescents who are like 16 and 17, and it's very difficult for her because all along she's done everything, right? From making their bed to everything. And now she finds it really tough because one, another interesting thing is the kind of investment you make in helping your child grow, right? It's like everything is that, there's nothing else that exists beyond that. And now she suddenly realized they are in college and they don't need her as much as they needed her, because now they go on their own and they don't come back and tell her what's happening like it was in school. So she started feeling very empty, like, I don't understand my purpose. I mean, what am I, a maid at home? And stuff like that. So it was very hard for her. Trust me, very, very hard for her, because she would come back every session and would be like so angry and irritated that they're not listening to anything. There are a lot of methods that you have to start, and you'll have to do it every time you keep trying. So she started with small things like, I'm not going to feed the cat anymore because the family wanted the cat. All right, she said, I'm not going to do it, you guys start doing feeding the cat because you want the cat, right? So start cleaning the poop and start feeding the cat. So small little things. I don't know how much she could manage to do, but yeah.
Okay, so let's quickly move ahead. We have tons of questions and we're not going to leave you until you're going to finish them. So yeah. Okay, so next is maybe we should have been a little more cautious on our emotions to show to our child. Now we are realizing that they could have turned more sensitive and more self-respect starts kicking. I don't know, that's an ambiguous question. Okay, let's move on to next. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, what about zombie books? And they are more fascinated as these coming in comics and stories, which does not carry any sense.
They'll do all kind of things. They'll talk about zombies, vampires, anything. They are exploring the world. We can't do much about it. Trust me. This is a period where they will explore into the uncertain, unfamiliar, uncomfortable. Is their journey. You can't do much about it.
So there is nothing we as a parent can stop children from exploring these kind of books.
You are yourself, right? You are an individual in yourself. You have your ideologies, you have your emotions, you have everything that's happening for you. And your child doesn't have to become a replica of you. Okay? So, yeah, so they have a mind of their own. They're going to have their own emotions. They're going to have their own ideologies. They'll have their strengths. They have their own set of things to do. So that's them. And they will explore. And at one point, they will realize that all of it is like, it's not making any sense. And then they start looking at something else. That's their journey.
What is the stretch you think you would allow? Because you have been telling them explore everything. They'll go into each and everything. So as a parent, you just let them free to whatever limit they go.
I mean, keep your communications open. Okay, because that way you know that they're going to come back. You are going to be observing them. You are going to be watching out for them. It's not like you're completely oblivious of whatever is happening inside a shut room. You do notice that there are certain things happening, so you'll have to keep that communication open. It's a good time to start building trust, whichever age they are in, and as they earlier the better, because as they get into adolescence they become more private, right? There are a lot of things they wouldn't want to come and talk. They might try you out. They're very tricky. They will try you out. They'll come and test out your confidence. They will try and trust you and tell you certain things and observe as to how you're reacting to their information. And if you swing the other way and start supporting their friend, they're like, okay, so even you don't like me. So it's a very funny period of time. And well, it's divided, right? It's early, then there's middle, and then there is late adolescence. So
you say that preparing the ground is needed for before the child enters adolescence.
Preferably. But many of us may not have done that. But one thing I would want anyone who's listening to right now to know that then there is no best method of parenting, right? There are no best techniques and there are no best parents. Whatever you do, things are going to repel the other way. So you need to know this, that you are the best parent for your child.
I absolutely resonate with this, but it's just that, just like a girl's body has some preparation to do before menarche. So I was just thinking maybe adolescence also has some ground preparations before we actually hit the 12. And then you're like awakening from the sleep and telling, okay, my child is 12, he's adolescent, now what do I do? What is the right age you can actually start
So it's very individual here as well, Divya. I'm just giving an average of 12. For some, it can, I told you, the rate of menarche has come down to 10.5. And one of the factors is the food, right? There are many factors. One prominent one is the high glycemic index. So that has been found as one of the factors. So 10.5. So imagine, and the best part is before this body starts showing signs, the brain is already developing, like let's say 1.5 years before that. Okay, so if it's 10.5, you can do your math and it goes back to like 8 years, right? So how do you communicate with an 8-year-old child about let's say sexual maturation? It's a very different thing altogether, right? So you will have to talk to them in the best language that they understand. Now, the very interesting thing is they come back and ask a lot of questions. Okay. And you need to, from when they are small, actually. So I'm reminded of this little fellow who happened to go home and ask the mother around 5 years. So go and ask the mother as to where did he come from. Okay. Now the mother was like, oh my God. So at 5, how do I explain this to my child? She's like, oh, maybe I should start having.
I think at 5 they definitely do this. Do you think at 12 they would come back and ask the parent a question?
Well, at 5, the interesting thing was for the mother, she was like, oh, should I be starting to talk about the birds and the bees? But interestingly, while she's thinking and figuring out how do I have this conversation, this child was like, Ma, this friend of mine, he comes from Hyderabad and that one comes from Kerala. So where do I come from? And she's like, oh, interesting. So this is all you meant to ask. Okay. So so it's very important for you as a parent to start questioning them. Ask them as to what does that mean? Okay. So when they throw a word at you, ask you, what is this? I heard rape. What does that mean? So ask them as to where they got that word from. Where did they learn it from? Where did they hear it from? And get the information, because it's very interesting. Since I've worked in institutions, many a times it would be like they would have learned it from some senior. Okay. So it's important that you understand the environment that they learned from. Was it the school van? Was it the school bus? Or, was it at playground? So you become
Correct.
aware of what's happening.
Yeah, so at a 5-year-old, we can, get back to the source of from where they are getting these words. But do you think an adolescent would answer you, where did you get this? Would they answer you back? They might
Depends on the kind of communication you've kept it open with with them, right? So you got to start working on your relationship with them, because they are going to be working on their relationships as well. So it's very vital that you start working on your relationship with them. It's very organic. It happens on an everyday basis.
Okay.
I know it's very tough. It's very, very tough. It's not easy because you have your own self to take care of. Okay.
Okay, let's move ahead. So I think on similar lines, could you please advise us on what parents can do to help kids before entering adolescence? I think that was what we had all spoken till now. What kind of preparation parents can do to help kids before entering adolescence?
So I would like to take that question. The thing is, it's very important that you start noticing changes, be it boys or girls, right? So the moment you start noticing changes, I've been investing my time working on menarche as a project. So even before, okay, research has indicated that even before they hit menarche, it's not like overnight they start seeing blood and they start getting scared. There's so much evidence on that most kids think they've got cancer. They wouldn't even talk about it. Yeah. So even before that, you need to prepare them. You need to tell them what this is all about. Yeah. A similar thing needs to be happening with boys as well. It's very interesting. So much of research has been invested in understanding menarche, okay, but very less is been dealt with puberty in boys. So it's vital that we do communicate to boys as well, because their first ejaculation, their first wet dream, they are equally shocked. They're like, I don't know what's happening to me. And both these processes are it's amazing. It's just talking about your ability to reproduce. It talks about you having this ability to create, yeah, to bring in. That's what it all means.
I think that was a lovely answer, along with the ringing of the bell in the background.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. I try to involve my daughter to help me with my domestic chores, simple ones, but find her doing it unwilling. And many times she politely says, I will do it, but it is never done.
So then,
what do we do about this? Solution, fix.
So you got, sorry?
We need a solution, a fix to this.
It's gonna keep happening. You got to keep trying. That's all. Don't give up on them. It's very nice to start having negotiations with them as well, right?
Okay.
So most often, I'm going to talk about this client again because she found it so crazy that there would be days when, even though she asked her adolescents to start taking care of the cat, there would be days that they don't clean the poop. They're like, oh, we're too busy for this. And she's like, obviously you're the caretaker of the house. It just falls up on women, very unfair. But then it was like, getting to her. She's like, I can't take it, it's just so smelly and nobody else seems to smell. I'm the only one who has a nose in my house. To just hold your grit at that moment and say, you'll have to do it. Okay, I'm not going to do this. The one time you give up, it's done. So you negotiate with them. Dude, I'm doing these things for you, so it's time for you to start doing this in turn. It's very important. You have to.
What if they don't do it?
You have to make them do it, and maybe you cut off something that they want you to do. Yeah, because they need to start understanding that they're going into the adult world. Yeah, which means they need to give as much as they get. It can't become this linear one-way functioning that they can't keep getting from you. Many times that's what happens. It's like, you just take everything for granted and think that it's going to last your lifetime. Yeah, but well, it's not like that. You
Would
need
you
to, this is
suggest
a good time. This is a good time for them to understand they need to give as much as they take.
would you suggest a child going and living independently at this age where they don't have any adult supervision and they take care of themselves? Because most of the children, there is something called as earth kinder or the pharmacy, as these kind of concepts which actually help children with adolescence, where they go and they live in a farm in a forest, and they start doing all the activities by themselves. Will
Is it
this
like camp you're talking about or
it is
like a
it is
living?
camp. It is one of the curriculums designed in one of in the Montessori. It's called earth kinder or the
Okay.
pharmacy, where the adolescent goes and lives into a world where they only take care of themselves, where there is no adult supervision. Do you think this kind of environment would support the child better than the child staying at home?
I'm sure the people who design it have a philosophy of their own. So I
Okay.
think it's best to understand their philosophy as to why they wanting to initiate something like this. However, see, adolescence, I told you, it starts off, kick starts somewhere around 11 and a half, 12, and all of that. It's very subjective, right? It's very subjective to every human. So, however, what is very common even to our Indian population would be when the child finishes the second PUC and goes into engineering, medical, and everything else. So, which means up until then they are at home and then they're going to go out, right? So, that is a period which is very, very difficult for parents again because, yeah, this means that you're going to allow them to go, yeah, and you need to be creating that launching pad for them at that moment. If you're going to hold them and say no, you choose something within the city because I don't know, engineering colleges or medical colleges, all of this, there's so much of this, and I don't know how you'll survive, my child is so small. We're
Do you
not being helpful.
do you think giving this launch pad at 10 or 11 will work rather than wait at
Why do you
16
have
or
to
so?
launch them at 10 and 11?
It is, I mean, because they're entering adolescence, it might help them connecting with the nature and being with them, being more responsible for their things.
I think they're small, yeah. They're 11 and 12. I mean, they're still just getting into it. I don't understand. Maybe you should talk back to the philosophers who've come up with that philosophy. I'm talking about an Indian population, Divya, because I'm looking at this launching happening. Sometimes it happens, maybe even after 10 standards, that's like 10, 15, and 16. But then most often it's like, once they reach an 18-year-old, okay? Because I'm talking from my experiences of people I've met, and it is difficult. It is difficult for parents to just say that I don't know, I've monitored him all along, and now I don't know the kind of people that he's going to be meeting, the kind of things that happen. Okay, they're so scared of these guys going to go and try out new things, and what if they get addictive and all of that, right? So these are all real risks that is very, very important, which might happen, which is something that they are susceptible to.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. Okay. So you mentioned that parents have to be mindful I'm sure many here agree with me that parents, at least who I have come across, lack in parenting skills. How to help such parents to deal with their child in this age?
I'm sorry, I did not follow that.
So you had mentioned that parents have to be mindful.
About?
In general, being mindful with children.
Okay.
So I am sure many here agree that many parents, at least who I have come across, lack in parenting skills. Say there is a scenario where a parent is saying that they lack in parenting skills. So now
Hmm.
they are asking, how do we start dealing with these children at this point of time?
I'm going to rephrase myself, repeat myself. You are the best parent for your child. And okay, so if you're part of HLP and if you've been listening to Mr. Velu, then he keeps talking about this thing that, you're choosing your child as much as the child chooses you. Okay. It's a very cosmic kind of choosing between two people, right? They choose you because it helps them come out with certain qualities. I'm saying this openly in this forum. I don't know if I can do this in the scientific forum, but then, yes, I'm going to take this opportunity to do so.
That's a
Um,
spiritual angle to that, right?
yeah, so they choose you to help them manifest certain qualities. It's all about life learnings, right? This life is a journey, and you choose each other. Okay. But I like the fact that you realize it's not that you lack parenting skills. Whatever you're doing, if you are tuning in this morning at 9 to 10, it's because you want to get some new information, which means that you're already in this path of discovering. It means you're already in this place where you want to learn, you want to do something, and you know that certain things are not working for you. So that's like already a tap on your shoulder because you're already doing it. Yeah. And yes, you're right. There could be a lot of areas that we are uncomfortable. The minute we speak of sex and sexuality, it's like, oh my God, that's something that I don't want to talk about. But it's going to be so prevalent and is very prevalent with adolescents, right? So a lot of times we don't have enough information about it. And it's very important that we understand it first. Okay, we get comfortable with ourselves, and therefore it becomes it's just very innovative then for you to respond to your child. So yes, instead of saying that you're lacking skills, no, you don't. But there is a possibility that you don't have enough information. Yeah, which we're all on this journey of learning, and we're going to keep learning. And I never stop learning. It's important that we keep getting information so that we get better at it. We just keep getting better.
Okay. Next question. So how do such parents go about helping their child who might be hiding things or who might be lying?
They lie because they're scared of you.
So
Any
Diana,
person lies at any age.
so
Even
Diana,
now, if I'm lying to somebody who's like, I'm
making
scared,
me
no
the
approval.
mother once, you're making me the assertive mother in the next scenario, you're making me a friend in another scenario. Now, why is my child lying here?
Those are the different feathers that we wear as humans, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
I'm sorry, you're breaking up. Hello?
Yes, it's clear now. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes. So how do we handle a child who's lying?
So any age, like I rightly said, right? I'm not lying about this. I'm being truthful about this, that if you are lying to somebody, it just means that there is fear in that relationship. Look at your own self. When would you lie? To your boss? To somebody else? I don't know. I'm not using the spouse, but whatever. Okay, it's because you are wanting that person's approval, and you're not going to get it for certain reasons. If you tell the truth, they're not going to accept what you've done or what you are doing. So therefore, it's good to just manipulate that information or not give them the right information, and therefore it's lying. Yeah. So which means, where do we start? We start with what is it? It's again building on that relationship, right? If they are lying to you, then there is something that's not working between the two of you.
Okay.
So you start working on the relationship.
Next question. Um, Watching videos on YouTube, my friend's daughter is not interested in studies and wants to quit and take up some professional courses like baking, how to make her understand the importance of studies. She wants
Well,
to
you
quit.
are wrong.
So she has seen a lot of YouTube videos on other things, and now she wants to take up a professional course on baking and quit her studying. How do we handle this child?
Firstly, it's very important if it's a child or is it an adolescent. And if it's an adolescent above 18, then they are also trying to explore their careers, right? It's very important that they start exploring their career. So if it's 18, 19.
It's an adolescent who is 13, 14 years who's saying this.
Yeah, so they tend to, right now everybody's in cooking the last 4 months, and it's very interesting to see certain things. It's possible that this person has a flair for it. It's interesting to just dig a little deeper and find out as to how much can this person actually invest into it. Okay, the reason being, if she's going to be very fickle-minded about, okay, I'm going to cook today, and then tomorrow comes up with, I want to try gardening, and then come up with something, all of that is part of this mind that is wanting to try out a lot of things. But if she's found out her passion, and that's a very young age, right? It's amazing. What she needs to do is definitely get some basic right. Yeah, you have to, at least in India, you got to get your 10th or 12th standard, and post that you can probably go into professional baking. She could probably get her degrees in that.
So at this juncture, when the child is asking at 14 years, so do I let her do or not? This way or that way? What do I do?
Yeah, you can take it up as a hobby. You can take it up. She could start.
Take it up as a profession. What do I do as a parent?
Like quit school.
She's adamant on taking it up as a profession.
Like quit school. Like don't do school anymore. That'll be a very difficult decision. If you're going to be one of those parents who's going to be like, okay, after 5 years you failed in that, let me help you do something else, then maybe. But otherwise you'll have to sit, convince her. If you can't do it, then take somebody else's support to do it. But instill this thing into this person that, how the society works is that you need some basic things to happen. And 14 would be a little difficult to start your own.
So what if she says that I'm going to bake cakes and
I think it's too early that we are to start a bakery on her own, 14 years old. It's amazing if she can do that.
I mean, but then the child is very confident of what she's going to take up, and she says that I want to become a baker, and I'm going to earn from this. So what do we say to this child now?
She can still try it out. You can help her do it. But she needs to, that's a decision the parent needs to make. If they're okay with, supporting this person for the next, she has her own stuff. But it's amazing because she can actually go online, right? Sell certain things. I don't know, it's a tough call, but that's something that the parent needs to decide. If you ask me, she can still invest a lot of time in doing it in her free space, in her free time, and try and figure out how it is. Because it's one thing to bake, it's another thing to make it a profession, which means if she wants to hold a bakery, it means business, it means getting back home money and fending for herself at that age.
It's not just about baking, Diana. I've come across a lot of people who have taken up professions like modeling and stuff like that, like who've taken up at 14, 15 years. And I think with the recent school regulations, what was like, we would have a cutoff of like 15 years is 10th standard and blah, blah, blah. Now the regulations have also changed in India the past couple of days. So with the advancement in the way we are evolving as a human, the way our DNA is changing, maybe the child is more receptive or more clear with her choice of being a baker. Can the parent take a chance with this child at this juncture?
That's a call that the parent makes. Like I rightly told you, right? I'm going to repeat myself one more time. If they're okay with supporting this child till she actually feels like, yes, now this is a time that I can truly fall back on whatever I'm doing, then it's fantabulous. Yeah, because it's not just about baking cakes and selling it. Who's going to sell it for her? Is her father and mother having enough time to start investing in her project? Then fantabulous. They can go ahead and do it.
Okay, right? So Diana, we are at question number 13. We have 31 questions. So let us quickly wrap it up. Okay, so next question is, what is your point of view about masturbation in teens? Should I encourage them or stop it or educate them?
Stop it. Why would you stop something like that? Now, the thing is, it's the most natural thing. I told you, sex and sexuality, it's like the beginning of it, right?
When you say it's a natural thing, why would you want to stop it?
Exactly.
I mean,
Why would you stop?
you were saying that we'll have to stop it.
No, I said if it is a natural thing, why would you want to stop it? It's
Okay.
something that every human indulges in. And this is the beginning of it. They are exploring their bodies. They are
So
getting
do
in
you think
connection
at
with their
this
body.
age it is fine to indulge in these kind of practices? It doesn't harm their health or something like that?
This is where I'm so sorry, Divya, but I'll have to bring in this that this is a topic that needs like a proper education for the adult population. All right. So as adults, we are so unaware of sex and sexuality that many a times we come up with these great myths that we hold in our head that masturbation is not good. There are so many myths. For the love of peace, we need to educate ourselves on this.
Maybe at
So
that age it could not be good. In general, it could be good.
at which age is this not good? You're
I,
not going to see a 5-year-old doing this, right? When he or she is an adolescent and when puberty hits, we need to correct our information. We need to correct our facts that yes, it's something that people indulge in, and yes, it's going to happen.
okay, so it's fine.
This
That's the answer.
is also the hormone kicking in, right?
So it's
And that's what you want to do.
okay. So we
And
let
what is
the
the
parent.
harm in exploring your body?
Okay, so we let the parent leave the child.
Yes, they need their privacy. Of course, they need their
Do you think
privacy.
education would help at this juncture? Educating them on the pros and
I
cons.
hope they're getting information. I really hope there's this. There are lovely organizations. I'm from Bangalore, so I can talk from organizations in Bangalore. There's Enfold Proactive Trust, which gives in some really good information to both parents and teachers because they're adults as well. Let's not look at them as something else. It's not that every teacher needs to have all information possible. It's a beautiful community. All respect to you, but it's possible that we don't have enough
So we're
information.
gonna
So,
catch you after the session and you're gonna share all these details.
of course, of course.
Okay, so next question. How to enable teens into spirituality?
If they have a flair for it, then they will start off. In fact, if you ask me, impulsiveness, right? So, in order to get them to start pausing, one of the best things that you can start off is mindfulness, is self reflection, is breath work. And you'll be surprised the kind of commitment that I get from adolescents population is so beautiful. Okay, I'm so surprised that at 14 and 15 and these are not people that I'm asking them to do, but then when they come in, they talk about they are already into chanting, they are into practicing mindfulness, and it's beautiful. It's very interesting how they actually explore, many a times guided by their parents, or many a time they come across somebody who they are um, pretty taken aback by. They're not spitten, but definitely taken aback by, and they start practicing these.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. How to protect them from falling pregnant or use of contraceptives at this age, in
You'll have
this period?
to talk to them. You'll have to keep your lines of communication open. And I hope the schools are doing something as well. I'm hoping that schools are also having, this kind of information very open. Many schools do, okay, but there's a lot more that needs to keep happening. Like I told you, Enfold is really doing a great job. They keep talking about it. In fact, one of the schools that I worked in, we started way back in standard one, and it's very interesting to have the same resource person talk differently to every age group. It's so beautiful to watch how they can actually change the same information, but it's so important that they get this information.
Don't you
Yeah.
think giving of too much information would make their minds inquisitive to try something which they might have otherwise not known?
My question to you: what is too much information? And really, who else can be inquisitive? It is their age to be inquisitive, it is their age to explore, so they will. Even as children, have you never seen a little child go and try out those plug lines and want to try out what is there inside? That's how humans are. We are inquisitive. Yeah, we grow up differently trying to be inquisitive about a lot of other things as we grow older, but then yes, it's human nature to be inquisitive. And what is too much information? They are going to get information either ways.
Okay.
They will. But
Okay.
it's rather that they get it from good sources than go and get it from, just randomly anything and start following myths.
Okay. So how to protect them from taking drugs, indulging into drugs?
protect them from taking drugs. One, it would be good for you to know their friend circle, right? So if you have your open lines of communication, okay, you kind of know who are the people that they're hanging out with. So that gives you an indication as to what is happening in their life. Will they try it out? Yes. Not all of them, not all young adolescents go and try out alcohol and weed and all of that. But I don't know. Many of them that I've come across, yes, they do. But do they become addictive to that is something that we'll have to start being mindful about. And if they are, then they need professional help for sure.
Okay.
How do you keep them off it? Know their know their friend circle. Definitely know them. Know them first. First you get to know your adolescent, and then maybe you get to know their inner world, because they're not going to let you in if you're going to be spooking, like you go into their sneaky corners. No, not going to happen.
Okay. Next question: how to make teens unbiased with religion or caste or any kind of groupism?
Depends on what you are talking to the child. Depends on how you as a
Does
parent are
it
with the
really
child.
impact that way, Diana? Does it really think that what I'm talking at home impacts with the way they're going to form their opinion on religion or groupism?
Severely. Severely. You are not just you. It also
Wouldn't they
depends on.
want to try something out or go to a church or some other place with their friends and do something? And how do we let them be? That couldn't be the parents' choice. It couldn't have had any conversation, the mother or father. The child could have got this information from friends or somewhere. It is
So your
possible,
question
right?
is, how do we help them not being biased, or how do we let them explore other things? Could you read?
Not being biased with any kind of religion or caste or any kind of thing.
So how do you keep them open to things, right? It's the
Exactly.
kind of people that they're involving in. If the schools are practicing something like that, where they're bringing in bias, then that's where they learn. Unless they have become philosophers at a very young age and they want to try and categorize people, which doesn't come in easy for kids or adolescents, right?
It
They're
could be
very
a
open.
fun. It could be
Are
a fun.
very
Just go
open.
to go and watch what's happening over there. So, what as a parent do I allow? Do I allow my child to go and explore?
Would you have an issue with your child trying out something else?
No, that's a question here.
Now, my question back. Oh, you want? Okay, I want to ask that parent then. Is that so? Those are your biases against that particular religion, right? If you are coming out with bias and you're saying these are the biases I have on a religion A and B and C and D, and therefore you don't want them to explore, I can't answer that question for you, because it means you are holding biases against something else. And I'm confused right now as to how to go about answering that question, because it's
Okay.
your bias against some other religion, and I don't know how to help you out.
Okay. Okay. Next question. We are at number 19. How to enable teens in social service?
Schools have a lot of projects, if you ask me, by itself.
What
They
if the
many
school
schools
doesn't
have.
have a project? What does
You as a parent could start off initiating. I hope you have something in your community. If you do, then fantastic. If you don't, then you can go and probably introduce them to certain services that they can start off, or encourage them to start something on their own, something that they like doing. Yeah, can they start spreading, like the person who was baking? Can they start baking for I don't know, for homeless people, or bake something and go give it to the migrants right now? That's the population that they want. They could try and explore that and see how it comes out for them.
Do you think a parent doing a social service will help the child indulge into any kind of this thing, or rather putting them into a school? Which
You
would
are a role model for them, definitely. So they will learn from you.
okay.
Yes. Yeah. So they may start following that as well. May not. Everything is a may and may not. They may like what you're, like I told you, right? This is a period where they start questioning, they start challenging your whys and why nots. So all your ideologies, they'll be like, so all of this is out of the door. You are different. At home, you're very different. So you can keep your service in your pocket, but this is not how you are. So they have a very reasoning mind. So they will question your ideologies. They will see your flaws more than your perfection. So yeah.
Okay. Okay, number 20. Is it worth to give pocket money to them?
Worth to give pocket money. That's your individual parenting style. If you like giving it, please go ahead and give it
I
to
mean,
them.
there's
And
no
you know what they want to do
child
with it.
demand for pocket money, right?
It's nice. No, it's at very early age they know how to save money, how to what to spend it on, what to do, and stuff like that. It depends on your ideologies of what how you want to parent. If you ask me, yeah, it's fantastic. At least you know how to save and you know where to spend it.
Okay, so I thought this will be a 2020 match, but it's extending to a one-day cricket match. Fine. So we have finished 1.5 hours of the session, and we are not going to close it very soon. So number
Okay.
21, is it okay to allow them to work part-time?
How old are they? Like they are older ones, right?
Say the 15, 16 ones, 15, 16.
Some of them like to go in and try out something like that. As long as they know what they are doing, Divya. If it's, see, I told you this is an age where they're not going to. They like novel experiences. They like to keep themselves engaged, and they like to be with their own peers, right? So it's good for them to be engaged, if you ask me, because otherwise you do see them sulping around. They just slump themselves, and they're being very moody and all of that. So one of their dopamine high, right, is when they are expending themselves. If they are getting engaged physically, it kind of helps them.
They can work part-time.
If they want to, yes, yes, you can reason it out. See, these are questions that you should talk to your adolescent and understand as to why they want to do something like that. Do they like it? What is their rationale behind it? It's a very interesting. You'll get to know them so much more.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next question, how to protect them in engaging with talking with stranger, online chat or game? I think this question remembers me of there was some game, Suicider game, where a lot of
Mm.
children were playing it and they ended up committing to it. So how can we avoid that?
So this you need to educate them. Not is not just the parent's responsibility, but the school. The second parent also plays a big role in it. In fact, even the third parent, the media also needs to get more mindful of it because it's just most of it. Why am I talking about build your own support system? The reason being, it's not just the mother and father, right? And if something wrong happens to your adolescent, it's not you. It's not that you're a bad parent, right? Or even your child. It's not that you are a bad parent. It's just that things are different right now, and you need to take that support. You need that support to get things going. So it's just not the mom and dad. It's also the schools. It's also media. Everyone needs to play a part in educating them about the pros and cons of social media or engaging in talking to strangers, and it's so common. Trust me, it's very very common and very dangerous for them. I've personally dealt with a lot of them
When
who
you
are.
say that we'll have to educate them, do you think installing some amount of fear uh, amongst the conversation would help?
No, fear works with them. You'll have to rational with them, Divya. This is a time where they do understand. Remember, I told you, right? This is the time where abstract and conceptual thinking comes into play. So it's
Fear
very
of
important that you sit them down and talk to them the reason behind it.
Okay, when I say fear, fear of the known, fear of what might possibly happen. That
You
kind of
reason
fear.
it out with them. No, talk to them. Why you want to give them fear? Might as well give them reasons as to why they should be, what is doable, what is not doable for them, right? As to what are the
When
risks
I say
involved in
this is not
something like this.
doable, I'll have to explain the consequence of why it is not doable.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when
In
there's
fact,
a
tell them
con-
about your risk. Sorry.
so when there is a consequence, the consequence is definitely not a good one in this case. So there is definitely some amount of fear where I'm leading them to. Is that fine when I educate them?
When you talk about risks involved in a particular behavior, right? The consequences that it can lead to, these are just options that you're generating for them. Okay. Are you giving in, are you installing fear in that? I don't know. I don't think you're giving in fear. What you're giving is you're giving them information, and then it's their decision to make. It's an informed decision that they make, but then hyper rationality kicks in anyways. Okay, so they are going to be weighing out positives to negatives, and that's again another brain process. But sometimes they'll have to fall into it for them to get out. I hope they do.
Okay, so this is a connecting questionnaire to the previous question which we spoke. I'm denying my adolescent his privacy. If I decide the computer stays in main hall, where can I see the monitor all the time?
Super. That's a good thing to do. Fantastic. That's not denying his privacy. That's just being very watchful of what is happening. And that's absolutely fine. When I'm talking about privacy, yes, they do need their private time as well. So if you're talking about masturbation and you're like, suddenly walking in, they feel embarrassed as much as you are. And this is something that every adolescent does engage in. So you thin line of differences, right? There are various areas that are areas of development.
Okay. Many adolescents like to stay in her room shut. I have heard this with many other friends. Is this a natural behavior with adolescents? Can we encourage this?
They like their quiet time.
Okay.
Okay, they do like their quiet time. They like, especially now, you see them getting so edgy. The last 4 months have been very traumatic for them. They're getting very edgy. You don't know what you've done, and suddenly your little one is like waving out of the thing, right? It's like they're not even engaging with their peers anymore. It's like constantly online with their teachers, and then they have tuitions to follow suit, and then they're always with the adult world, right? And they're so engaged that they don't have an outlet. It's not like back in school when they had PT, when they have this and that and everything else. So the point is to go back to that question. Yes, they do require their quiet time. They will go and shut themselves, but all the time, no. You have to break that, or rather build communication with them. Okay, if she's completely shut off from you, then it calls for a red flag, right? Which means you need to start figuring out as to what is happening. And if you can't do it by yourself, then take somebody else's help. Go seek out to another adult. Go. There are various ways to connect with her. That's why the concept of allo parenting, right? So if you look back, at least I can talk about myself. I think more than my mom who's watching right now, and nothing against it, but then there was a cousin and there were a couple of my aunts, and I think listening to them was also parenting, and they were equally engaged, right? They would given she was like this person to go to for many of them, but for me there were other people involved. And that's what happens sometimes. You may not be the person who can directly go and talk to them about a lot of things. That's where the allo parenting comes in. You reach out to other people, reach out to aunts, uncles, cousins, older cousins, whoever.
Okay. Moving on to next question. Okay, 25. In this, I think this is related to the content of the video gaming question. Cyberbullying or toxic internet content area, how to give them privacy when they use electronics, but also encourage them to share their online experience with adults.
Cyberbullying, body shaming, all of these. Okay, these are things that if you, most of us have our kids attending schools, so it's equally the responsibility of the school to educate kids. This is something that the second parent has to seriously look into. So it's not just the mother and father, but also the work of adults, the schools and media as well, to bring in these concepts, because cyberbullying and all of that does exist. It's not like it doesn't happen in India. It's very prevalent and it is happening. So yeah, it's not just you. It needs to be school.
Okay. Next question. 1 second. Yeah, I'm not an adolescent anymore, but I still get my life, movement, actions, and even basic activities being questioned and scrutinized. How do I go about this with constant intrusion?
So if you're not an adolescent, and I know this can be very difficult for you wherever you are and whatever you're doing, and whoever has posted this question, I would say reach out to somebody. Please reach out to somebody. This is not the forum for me to start talking about it, but do reach out to people. I hope there is somebody that you can connect with, and it's important that you do so. It can be very suffocating, it can be very up to your throat, so take your help.
Okay. So is there any kind of, medical or alternate healing therapeutic methods you think which might help children handling these kind of emotions or behavior patterns?
Which kind of emotions or
I mean,
behaviors?
the emotions which a child undergoes in adolescence, do you think if there are any suppressed emotions or extreme violent kind of children, do you think any kind of therapeutic methods or medicines, holistic way could help children with in this age? Would you suggest anyone using these kind of methods?
So whatever I've been talking about is something that nature gives us. It's so okay for the child to grow tall, but it's not okay to see his mood fluctuations. Then we start wanting medicines. It's okay for her to start, looking like a woman, but it's not okay if she's going to start exploring other things. It's like, we love to bracket things. This is okay and that is not okay. This I'll accept. No medicine for that. But this is something that needs to be medicated. I told
Medicated, I don't mean medication as in the
if
conventional
you
allopathic
talk
one,
me, yeah.
but for emotional or any kind of suggestions would you like, because you have been exploring a lot of healing methods as
What I
well.
would say is this period is also sometimes very crucial because many of the mental illnesses, right, mental health issues seems to sprout out around this time. So that, yes, that means you need to meet a professional, okay? But if it isn't following into that, then you need to, it's manageable. Take help. Please take help. Build your support system. I don't I don't know if they need to be medicated, but then if it is mental health issues, if it's got to do with depression, if it's got to do with schizophrenia, and all of this seems to have their onset in adolescence. If it is anything organic, please consult a professional. You need to get to a professional. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, to all the viewers live here, please do join our WhatsApp group. The link is posted down in the comment section below. We will have a lot of more meaningful discussions on different topics. That is number one. And please do join our next live event, which is on 22nd of this month. So this is an extension of the previous event, which is terrace gardening. So we had got definitely a very good response from most of the viewers, and all your questions would be answered. So this is an exclusive question and answer session for all those viewers who are interested in gardening. Okay, so I think even I need to drink some water. It's been more than
Well, I'm
one.
getting the questions here, Divya. Am I seeing the questions? Yeah. I'm not an. Okay, so
Okay.
we're on the 27th one, if I'm right.
No, I would suggest you not to look at the questions, Diana. You would get carried off. I'll do that for you. I'm here for that.
Oh,
Okay, so
sorry,
next,
sorry, I don't want to take your job away.
I'm just making your job easy. Okay, next is,
Sure.
okay, please share one of the most complex case study you have faced and how have you solved it?
Wow, what is this clinical interview? I hold my clients in privacy. No, I just brought those two examples because I thought it's important that they came in, but no. Every case is individual. Yeah, every person that I've met, I've never looked at them as cases for starters. It's an individual in front of me. It's someone with a
Any
soul,
kind of
and it's
example to
very
make,
difficult for them. I'm sorry.
any kind of example, a narration or anything you would want to share which it has solved with the case study or the kind of observations you have done. Very
I
crisp,
want
quick.
to. I deliberately don't want to look at this as a clinical thing. What I'm seeing is that what helped me, Divya, is I think I've moved beyond being a psychologist or a counselor. I've gone beyond being this person with cause and effect. I've been there, yes, but what has really helped me to deal with people who are adolescents, because when I joined my job, right now when I'm leading Daniel Seeger, I realized that I am an adolescent. I was an adolescent myself. So what really helped was a reflective time travel to go back, reflect on my mental space, to understand myself and bring in that experience to connect with them. right? So every person I've met, be it 4-year-old going through CSA, or let's say a 15-year-old going through, alcoholism or anything else that they were going through, it's that human in front of you with a soul, and it's so hard for them. Okay, maybe they cheated in class. It may look like, that's a very small thing, but it wasn't. For them, it was something. It was something that was happening, and and they were going back to homes where it was not very safe. It was different, right? So there hasn't been one study which is outstanding and it is clinically different. No, I think it's about the human in front of you and how you bring in that space, the difficulty, yes, is to build rapport. Yeah. And the moment you connect, it's something that comes in very from the inside, that there is this willingness to connect with the person in front of you. The moment you strike that, then it's different.
Okay, I wouldn't buy that answer. I wanted a much more story kind of answer for that. But
Yeah,
anyways,
I know it becomes very nice and very descriptive when we're talking about somebody's emotion. But let's remember that these people that I've met have been through, they wear their battle scars and they wear it very proudly. Okay, so it's not, for us, it sounds like a nice story that somebody went through,
no,
but
it could
no,
be an
it's like,
experience might help a parent as well with their own child, which they might not know how they would have either way addressed it. It might.
So
It only if at your
these
discretion.
are cases when I have been dealing with them. I've been dealing with them as a professional, right? So the ones that are complex are coming to me because it's beyond the parent preview, and I don't want to get descriptive about it. For me, each one of them, their scars are something very something that they wear on them, and it's beautiful that they evolved from wherever they are. And it's not just something that can just be spoken on social media like this. Everyone who's come in, if I am here, wherever I am, it's because of the kind of trust that they developed in me. It's because they allowed me to see a part of them. And for me, that's very precious. And I don't think I would want to be talking about it yet. I'm so
Okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
I'm going to go to the next
I
one.
just want to ask a very offbeat question, extremely. Do because this is psychology. Do children in adolescent age experience something called as intuitions? These
Of
kind of
course. Of course.
experiences, does it happen?
Yes, it does. Some of them are gifted, right? Some of them, it comes in very early for them. However, this impulse thinking, okay, which some of us, even as adults, tend to do over a period of time. But what happens in evolutionary pattern is that impulse actually goes into something called gist thinking. Gist is where you start thinking from your intuitive pattern, which many of us do not spend enough time to kind of develop.
Do you think these kind of
So does
things
it happen
along?
in adolescence? It does. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So do you think when we talk about spirituality, talking to children about these kind of experiences, or it could be a psychic experience, does it help with these kind of children? Because I have seen very, very rare children have experienced this kind of thing, but they are not aware of what it actually is.
If you have your child going through it, and okay, so this is a diversion from the place that I come from, right? From my clinical background. So there are kids who are very intuitive and who are very different from very small, and their purpose is very different, if you rightly say so. Okay, and interestingly, whatever little that I know, what I know is that they choose parents who are going to facilitate this for them. Okay, so then it comes on to the parent that when they notice this, they start nurturing that. Yeah, I like the example that I gave. If you see that your child likes or loves doing something, then encourage them to do that so that they start strengthening that part of them.
What if the parent doesn't understand that something like this actually exists?
Then they chosen that so that they go into a journey that is going to go up and down, and someday, somewhere, they do get help from someone. It's not necessary that everything needs to be the father and mother. That's why I introduce the second parent. That's why I introduce the third parent. Sometimes it's just not that media is all bad. There could be something that they're getting even from there. There could be a role model even out there, even from media, right? There could be positives from there as well, where you start feeling like, hey, so that makes sense to me. Let me start figuring out or trying to understand that much more. So the onus is not only on parents. Parenting is not only about mom and dad, it's also other people. If you look back at your life, I've had so many role models in my life. There are so many people who've just come in at the right time for me at that moment, for me to just evolve from that place. So many of them.
Okay. Moving on to the next question. So in your opinion, can a child who's disciplined, hardworking in the early years of childhood turn to be lazy in their adolescence?
The classical definition of what adolescents are all about, right? They're so lazy, they're sleeping all the time. The body is changing, therefore they need time to sleep. I know you don't like that answer as a parent, but then that's what happens to them if you see them, right? So body shaming is related to this as well. So the moment they start hitting puberty, now I told you it's very individual, it's not clinically 12, I just gave you an average age, right? But it could be any time before that. So suddenly you see that, sometimes this is medical, their limbs are like longer, and then you see some part then growing after some time. So they feel very awkward about their body. They are not comfortable with their body themselves, okay? And it takes them time to start accepting. And then when you have this extra thing of, this is what the ideal image is, that's when it spirals down like crazy for them. And that's why they take the extremes of, um, all kind of disorders, bulimia, anorexia, and all of that.
Okay, so it happens. Children who are disciplined can turn out to be lazy in adolescence.
Lazy means they're going to take more time
They're
to.
going to break rules, experiment, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's adolescence for
Okay.
you.
So how to manage and help them to steer through their interest in opposite gender?
So this is also a time for sexual orientation, and it may not be only the opposite gender. This is where I've been talking about our own information to get our medical, to get our facts right, right? So most times we think that the only thing that's prevalent is heterosexual relationships. Adolescence is one time that they could have an orientation for their own. They start liking their own. Yeah, there's homosexuality, there is bisexual, there's a spectrum. It's a spectrum, it's not just this or that, right? You could be gender fluid, there's so many things that you could fall into. So this is a time that they would start manifesting it out. Yeah, so how do you support that? Please educate yourself on this. So many of them go through this shame of being themselves, shame of accepting their orientation, is because um, the society looks at only heterosexual being okay. Nowadays we are opening up, fantastic, fabulous stuff. But still there's a lot of, oh my God, it's not okay that I like men and women, or maybe I like only women. So, it's a battle that's going through them already. So it's good for us as adults, okay, be it a parent or a teacher or whatever you are to the adolescent, to get yourself more information on this so that you can facilitate or be that space for them to start exploring. And will they date people? They are meant to date. They will be attracted to somebody else. There's also asexual where they're not even wanting to, but then yeah, most often they will.
So what if, say, let us take some of our experiences. We all have been adults, so there might be some kind of attraction in that age, and we all might want to just look at them or talk to them and stuff like that. So how does a parent, I don't know, this is a scenario which I'm talking about 15 years in the flashback scenario. I don't know how it's going to be now in the modern world, but how does a parent address this issue? Like the parent knows that the child is, see, this can happen in live places. For example, the family has gone to a movie, or or some other place, and the child has seen someone, and they want to see them for some time. I don't know, some kind of communication, or just smile, or just have a chat or a word. So when a parent is watching all of this, So what does the parent do to handle these kind of things?
Look away. I'm so sorry. I'm so pro adolescent. Okay, so
So you let the child do
so
that.
this is interesting. You brought that up. Okay, there could be something called affirmative crush, and then there is romantic crush. Okay, so if you see, this is also a time where they have a lot of fanism, right? So you tend to become a fan of a cricketer, an actor, your teacher. It could be anybody. You have this huge crush on that person, and the thing is, one is that you want to be so much like that person. Okay, so it's like a role model. You want to be so much looking like that person, or there's some quality in that person that you so want to imbibe as a part of you. And then there is romantic crush where you want to be with that person. It could swing between both. Now the thing is, this is a very lucid kind of a thing. Okay, for some of them, yeah, they might get everything from this one person, but then there could be a lot of them who are like, you like this guy for some time, and then you realize that, some things happen, or certain things you're like, okay, that's not working for me, I'm not attracted to that person, and I like somebody else. Now it'll be very shocking for adults that what is happening with you, but it's very natural for them. So
So
I
when we
think
go
these are like some of the best
communicate
moments of working with my adolescents. Sorry.
Oh, I think it is best moments for most of us, but I just wanted to know that, when a parent is seeing all this, when they sense all these kind of things, they just let the child do the akhmare kind of thing. It's okay.
But like I told you, you need to be keeping your lines of communication open with them. How much they get
Do you
involved
think
in
the
it,
child would get into that communication of what they are undergoing with, because they themselves are not clear of what is that emotion they are undergoing with the opposite
they
gender?
do come back to you, yeah. They do come back to you. No, I know, I'm not just talking as, a counselor because I'm not a parent, but I know of a lot of my clients and I know a lot of my friends who do have their children coming back to them and talking about it. And it's very interesting how they have a conversation with them. Some of them are like, okay, so this is happening. Let me be there with you through this process. And then there are those who are like, the more you're going to shut them off, they're going to do it either ways. Either you're going to be there with your child through that, I like this guy so much and he's looking at somebody else, he's not interested in me anymore, and she's going to shut herself off and cry herself or himself out, or you're going to be actively involved in their life and say, come on, there's a lot more to, you're going to be meeting a
Do
lot
you
of
think this kind of communication would come to the parent and the child might be more interested to discuss with their peer group?
It depends on how they will definitely discuss with their peers. They're going to be talking about the details of what they are doing. They might not come back and tell you the details of what is happening, but they can give you a hint as to, this is someone that you like. And then you become super alert and say, okay, so this is interesting. So
So
this
do
is
you
something
think the
that's
parents
happening.
has to be more open with these kind of conversations at home where the child realizes that this kind of communication is fine? I mean, we can have this kind of thing. I can tell it to my mother or my father. So do you think these kind of communications, in any kind of open-ended conversations, will help the child? Do you think that will
Yeah,
help the
they have
child?
a safe place to go back to, right? They have
Okay.
a safe place that they have. So this safe place can be a counselor, can be a teacher, can be, yeah, even your tuition teachers sometimes, they are more open to listening to things and back home. So it could be anything, right?
Any
But
other,
but if
anyone?
you want to be actively involved in your child's life, then I
Mhm.
told you, like we need to keep evolving. We need to keep opening our mind, opening our understanding towards things. And the more we are doing that, the more we're gonna um, have them come back and tell you what's happening with them. They won't give you the details. You're not their peer. They're very aware of that. Okay, they won't tell you the nitty-gritties of what's happening. Yes, you can't expect, and I think that much of privacy you need to be giving to them as well. Okay, that is where you draw your boundaries. Okay, but then for you to be actively involved in their life. Yes.
Okay,
And
next.
involve other people. Don't forget the term allo parenting, please. It's something very unique to us as humans. Don't, that's my takeaway for you. Do not forget that you need your support system, you need other people to be involved in it, and you need to let your adolescent involve with others as well. It's very important.
Yes, yes. I think this is really very important, and I have myself experienced it, and it was really comforting for me when I was an adolescent at back then. So next question, more like how do I go about keeping my relationship with them as intact as possible without causing any rift?
Drifts will happen
Okay.
because they're going to have their
As
own
intact as
ideologies.
possible. As
They
intact.
are, yeah, they are going to have more ideologies coming in. So they will come back and reason out with you. They will come back and ask you certain questions. And then it's about you holding your peace and your ground with them. How do you keep, yeah, develop? Yeah, I think it's like opening up your information. The more you are open to understanding yourself. I'm constantly reminded of this one example of this this Okay, so what happened was in his class they had a chart of the male and the female body. Okay, and the teacher caught him touching the male body because that's what she said. Caught him actually touching the female organs, yeah. And she came in reporting this guy needs some help. I mean, he's touching the dirty parts. And I was like, touching whose dirt? I mean, what dirty parts? Who? What are you talking about, right? And she's like, no, there was this chart of the human body, and then it was so hard. It was so hard to communicate with this adult who had a very limited understanding of her own body. Yeah, and well, if that is the space that you're coming with, then you're going to be looking at the adolescent as someone who's, exploring into dirt and filth. But if you can accept where you are, if you can get more information to educate ourselves more, then I guess your interaction with them, your acceptance of them becomes easier. Nothing against the teaching population. It's just that they are adults, just like many of us parents do that. Wherever you are, you could be a counselor, you could be anything, and your how you perceive certain things, your limited understanding of certain things could color how you look at another person.
Okay. Yeah. So next one, what would be your suggestions for parents with special children? Because even these special children go through the same adolescent mindset and behavior.
Beautiful. This is an area that I haven't dealt with at all, so I'm going to be very honest that I think we've had Bindu Haridas. We also had Gayatri and Priya, I guess, 2-3 weeks back talking about it. And I guess they are the ones who are working with this population. So they would be people that you can contact and communicate and ask this question too, because I can only tell you about people that I have worked with, population that I've worked with. I don't want to come in with, what I've read. No, I'm sorry. So you can probably get them to answer this question.
Sure. Thank you so much for being straight. Now the next question is, my daughter is 12 and a half and she helps me with all the chores. But off late, she's irritated because she finds all the male gender is doing nothing and just watching TV. Why does she?
Awesome.
Why?
I do feel like that. Yeah.
Well, so yeah, I lost the track. Okay, she finds all the male gender is doing nothing and just watching TV, but why does she have to do? What do I tell her?
Break the patriarchy in your house, please. Why are the men allowed to sit and watch while she's doing all the
So
dishes? What are you trying to do to
say
her?
the father is indulging in all cooking and other kinds of things, and she has imbibed this from somewhere else as well.
You are changing the scenario in their situation, right? Because for the adolescent, she's observed that if she saw the father cooking, then she won't come up with why am I supposed to do this? Should have been like, dad did the cooking, so I'll do the cleaning.
No, but
But
he
she
is not doing. My friend is not doing. Cousin is not doing. It could be her friend. It could be anything, or that is not doing. Why should I do? It can be possible, right?
is that what was the question, or are we trying to change the question? Because
So
what happens,
this
Divya, is
is
the
an
moment
open-end question. So the question
the
says
moment
about male gender. It doesn't talk about male gender in the house.
Yeah, so this is very gender specific if you ask me. So
Yes.
what happens is we start looking at it differently. For this mother, it could be very difficult. Okay, it is difficult because patriarchy is so soothly, seemingly nice to just soothe in, right? It just goes up everywhere. And for women, most of us, it's so hard. The minute we say the word patriarchy, it's like, no, 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 no. That's such a feminist point of view. No, it isn't. Okay, so for an adolescent, they will question it. They'll be like, why are we going to be doing this? And this is the age that they're going to be more vocal than a grown-up woman because you just keep up. But they won't, and they're going to be like, why am I doing this? So it's good for you to start having conversations at home and say, hey, so right now, this little girl who's an adolescent is questioning gender equality. So how about coming and helping out and doing these things? It's important that we start addressing. Sometimes they are beautiful because they're coming in with very deep insights for us. Okay, they are going to, it's not that they're randomly drifting away from you. It's not like they're randomly making their own ideologies and they're like, oh my God, whatever you're saying is bullshit. No, they're not doing that. They are doing it because they are exposed to newer information. And we are a global society today, so they are seeing so much more. They are exposed to this in schools and they see so much, and therefore they come in with this collective information that could be helpful for you to become more insightful. Maybe it's an aha moment for you. It can be difficult because as grown-up individuals, it's much more difficult to shake something which is very solid, right? But you could be doing that. So if you ask me, she's just being very, very herself. She really wants to know, why is it that this is not okay and why am I subjected to this?
Okay. So do you think this kind of debate might install something like feminism, or so
what is wrong with feminism, man?
Why are we even creating a debate on this kind of male and female and stuff like that? So do you think
she notices the injustice. For her, it is like, why is it my father and my brother gets to see whatever, but I'm not able to? Why are you not taking up for that little girl? Why is it so difficult for us to actually look at her and say, okay, so there is something that you're bringing out to my notice? So this is a small, interesting example. Very good question. Thank you for that. It's a very interesting thing, right? The moment it's come onto your plate, you're like, want to take it off, okay? Because it's so hard. It's so hard to question these things. It's not okay, right? Interesting. This is a smaller example, okay? But let me give you something even more deeper. It's okay for girls. It's okay for girls to cut their hair short, to wear pants. You're like, oh, wow, you're such a tomboy. But if guys have to start doing that, if you see an adolescent boy wanting to wear lipstick and high heels, he's like, oh my God, that's not okay. That's again gender equality. Inequality, rather.
Okay.
So it's not about feminism. It's just that, yeah, I think I'm getting really strong about it, but somewhere we need to shake these things. It's okay to be that which is, I don't know how it's defined, but more powerful, but not okay to become something else.
Okay. Okay. So next question, 33. Can parents become the first and authentic source of sexual information for children than peers or other sources? Will it be possible to build that trust in them to open up with us? I think we pretty much answered this question. You can just repeat it in one line.
Yeah, of course. So the moment you start seeing those changes in them, start giving them conversations about it. They are going to constantly, from small, they always come back and ask you questions to first find out their source of information. What is it that they want to know, right? Ask them, where did they find that word? Where did they learn it from? And then start building a conversation. So, so you're very sure as to where you are, what page you are with your child. And yeah, get your information, kindly get your informations right, get your knowledge built. And the moment you get yourself educated, what happens is your creativity kicks in when you have to talk about it to your child. Many times you heard, the famous question is, how do I talk about this to my child? It's like, your child best, yeah? And you are creative enough. We all were. Some of us just lost it. I already went through this, yeah? So the moment you have your knowledge, your information in place, And when it's thrown at you, your creativity will come in. You know your child better than anybody else, and you will know how to convey it. Have trust in yourself. You are the best at it.
Okay. So what is the right age to educate them about sex and sexuality?
As soon as you start noticing changes, I told you it's very subjective for every adolescent. So I would say maybe by fourth standard, no, there could be a child. I told you 10 is an average. There are kids getting it earlier. So the moment you start seeing noticeable changes, or remember, it's 1.5 years prior to that. So it's a little difficult, a little dicey. But if you see small changes, then have the conversation with them, both boys and for girls. It's important.
Okay. So next question. We don't pressure him on anything. Whatever we try to tell him and advice is like torture for him. How do I handle my son?
Depends on how you're communicating with them. So I've 2-3 months back I had this one parent and a child, and it's very interesting that whatever I've been telling is the same thing that the parent is conveying. So they're like, you know what, we need to come and spend money, but she's saying the same thing that you are, and then the way he's receiving it's very different. It depends on your tone of voice as to how you're communicating. And torture, I'm just thinking, why is that? Why is he feeling like that? What about it? What's your timing of giving these instructions? Are you repeating time and again certain do's and don'ts to them? Are you even having an open relationship where you're communicating with them, or are you like, giving them I don't know what, a memorandum to follow? I don't know your pattern of talking to this child, because this irritation, this moodiness, and it's accelerated for the past 4 months. It's just not your kid. If you've noticed it happening in your child, it's not just your kid, but these 4 months have been very traumatic for this population. They're the ones who are affected the most, more so because of social engagement. They lack it completely. They don't have playtime. They're not involving themselves with their peers. It's very tough for them. Very, very tough for them.
So do you think the way they have been engaging off late using electronics and gadgets with the social media, like even for my daughter, sometimes she doesn't get to play with her friends and she wants to, look at her friends and sit and chit chat with them. So do you think this kind of pattern which they have been following, because they don't have any other way to go and interact, on a long run, how do you think this might
They
impact?
don't meet them, right? Divya, it's one thing to be social, I mean, to be engaged with someone on the,
So what
you know,
can we do?
on the
Because
screen. That is the
we
question I posted, I think, in my presentation. I wanted people to answer. I want to see as to what you are doing already. That's information for me. I hope you answered that question. I would be looking for your reply, particularly in the chat box.
so
I
what
really want to know
parents are
to
doing with handling
how are they
adolescents in love.
um, how are they bringing out this space for these people? Because it's so important, right? The last 4 months has hit all of us, and we're dealing with it differently.
Any
For them,
advice from you, Diana, on this? Any
I want to
advice?
see what
Any
you all are
tips?
doing already, and I will reply back in the reply box. I want to understand what's happening already. I want to know what is this is this is with an intent, and therefore I'm looking at that question to be answered for me. Yeah, because it's so important that we understand this is important. Then what are we doing already?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So another question. So most of the girls, with the girls, everyone are undergoing changes in their body. So they might want to indulge in making themselves more beautiful. They want to go to the parlor and stuff like that, look like a heroine, and these are all kind of emotions which an adolescent goes through. So how does the mother cope up with these kind of emotions with the child? Or she might completely become a tomboy kind. So how does she balance it out? The child might want to be a complete tomboyish, where she's just wearing pants and shirts and stuff like that, or she might really wanted to dive deep into all these kind of beauty related things. So how does the mother balance this kind of emotion? Does she get the child along, let her explore, or put a break there? And what does she do here?
So this is more media driven, right? It's not something where it's very intrinsic.
The
So
mother
if you
might
look
also be
into
doing, the child might have impact from their friends, or the friend might have told, see, I got this done. What do you think about it? Or the child might have gone to the friend's house or some other place. If media could also be one among them, but friend, mother, or any other source could also
There is this underlining thing of to look more beautiful. More is the word I'm taking from you. Okay, more beautiful. Where do you get that definition from? More beautiful.
beautiful or
Okay.
experiment with their body or
I'm
their
looking back at the
look.
question, Divya, and I'm breaking it down in my mind. And I'm thinking when there is something like that, then it's the intention of the adolescent is a little more than the immediate space. Okay. If she's watching her mom do it, then the mom shouldn't have a problem with that. But if she's taking from her peers, which is very common, it's very common that in schools, and where are they getting from? Either their mothers, then we start looking at their mothers, or it's usually the media. It's the fashion. This is like a huge scam, right? It's like it's like a I
The
don't know, millions
beauty
of dollars industry that
of
is
this. Yeah.
trying to get these images into our brain, into our schemas. And therefore that's the reason why that is the most beautiful question about body shaming already spoken, right? So it is related to that. What does the mother do? um, so
Mother,
it's
parent,
important
anyone.
that
This is a
from
little. This is little different from body shaming. It is about making it look more colorful, not shaming as in shaming, but what do the parents do when
what
a
do
child?
you understand of body shaming? What does body shame mean to you, Divya?
Body shaming, it could be anything like, where the child is not confident of their body and they want to do something about it and make it look different, like how they perceive it outside or something like
So
that.
what does going to the parlor and getting more makeup mean? How does that correlate with your definition
See,
of
body
body?
shaming, exactly. Sometimes it could be also like they don't like themselves at all, where they go
Mhm.
into that groove. Okay, and that is one part of it. The second part of it is where they want to do some enhancements to make them feel a little better. This,
So how is that question different from what you're asking me?
I mean, I'm talking about the feminine point of view, where how do the mother handle this child, this girl child,
To
feel?
figure out the source, right? That's where again we go back to lines of communication. Where did she get these ideologies from? To start off with, okay. And even before that, how much um, of this is coming from the parent, right? How much are you appreciating your child? How much are you saying you are beautiful the way you are? Most of us don't take that second off to tell them that it's okay to be the way they are. Most times these things are coming in from outside factors you cannot control. What is within your parameters is something that is capable by you. um, yeah. And there are so many factors. Yeah, there's so many variables that's going to hit a person at any level. But then it comes back to how much you are appreciative of. Um, I think it comes back to that.
Okay, so next question. We have reached a stage now that my son, who is 15-year-old, thinks that he has grown beyond his age. So he does not listen, highly aggressive, gadgets whole day, no proper sleeping, food times, no schedule, just not able to have a conversation with him.
Hmm. Gadgets, somewhere the boundaries need to come in, but all the other things that you're talking about is very, very distinctive of an adolescent, right? So if you're finding it really difficult because you haven't set the parameters already, what I would say is please take help. Please take help. Try the allo parenting. If that doesn't work, then maybe you need to be looking at professional help, because sometimes it's way beyond you, because you need to start building with a rapport, and that would mean that you need to look at other ways of getting this straightened.
Okay, so a parent has a concern that their children are too stressed when their exams or other kind of things are coming up, and how do they cope up with this kind of stress with the education system, with the peer group, with the society, at the home? How do they cope up with stress basically?
It'd be very interesting to figure out where did this stress emerge from? How did that get initiated even? So why do they have this stress even before exams? Who's the source of it? How do they know that getting marks is stressful? How much is okay? What is acceptable? And where did it emerge from? Was it the school or was it the parent? Is the emphasis on marks coming from the teachers or the parent? And that's the balance, right? So if you're giving the right kind of input or right kind of feedback, then I think it'll be less stressful.
Okay. I think we have come to the end of the session. So yeah, thank you so much. Thank you
You're
so,
welcome.
so,
You're
so
welcome.
much,
Thank
Diana.
you. Thank you
I
guys for listening in.
I think this was one of the most watched sessions. I think we usually close it up in 1 hour. We
Okay.
have almost hit, I think, almost 2 hours, more than 2 hours, close to 2.5 hours. The
Okay.
most
All
very
right.
live interactive session, and the viewers are constant. I mean, the ones who have come, they have just glued to
Okay.
watch you, to listen to what you're
Thank
going
you.
to share
Thank you so much.
about
I
all
hope
of
it was
them.
helpful.
Yeah, so this is Diana, guys, for all of you. Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank
Uh,
you.
yes, so we're gonna take some more information about the links and other things which you have shared. So to all of you, please do join our WhatsApp groups for more such interactive discussion and updates about the live events. The link is posted below in the comments section. Thank you everyone for being part of this session. And we'll see you again back in the next interactive session on 22nd of this month, terrace gardening live question and answer session with Archana. Thank you, Diana. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you,
time.
Divya. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye-bye.